as most of you know, AMS-IX has been around for 25 years, and in that time have pretty much stuck to the one switch vendor. So it's a pretty big deal for them when they decided, okay, we need some new requirements. We've got an evolving membership, evolving group of services. There's larger demands. So they needed to start looking at, was their current switch setup going to be robust enough to move forward? So they took a look at that and they came up with some conclusions. So they went through a proof of concept for this new switch platform that they eventually decided on. So today we thought we'd have a bit of a look at how that went on and what are some of the issues they ran into and how they came to the final professional decision they made moving forward and to look after the AMS-IX members as best they can, and of course the wider community. So we have Stavros and Evgeny here. I'm going to ask if both of you could, by turn, introduce yourselves, who you are, your position at your company, and your involvement in this project. So Stavros, can we start with you?
Yes, that's okay. So my name is Stavros. I'm a senior network engineer with AMS-IX, working with a NOC team for 5.5 years, more or less. And I was heavily involved in this proof of concept and actually in this journey to find a new vendor for the next generation of switching platform.
That's it.
The confirmation of Stavros' work was involved. Evgeny Bugakov, senior system engineer, working for Juniper Networks for 9 years. Actually, today is my anniversary of service. So I'm responsible for service providers, large-scale data centers here on territory in Benelux. And since AMS-IX is one of those customers, I was involved in this project for network platform upgrade from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So my responsibility in the project was first to identify the opportunity to figure out what kind of platform we can offer for the customer according to their requirements and needs, and then guide them through all the technical process, including proof of concept, addressing all technical problems and questions they might have, and bring that to the successful end.
Okay, thanks for introducing yourself. So I touched on it, but Stavros, perhaps I can ask you, in your own words, why was AMS-IX looking for a new vendor? Yes. And why is this so significant to AMS-IX?
Yes, so as everybody knows, we were collaborating with Brocade, later Dstream, for many, many years. And all our platform, all our switches are based on the vendor, from the equipment from this vendor. Apparently, there was a change in the strategy, and the new equipment, the SLXs that we have, they will not support 400G, which is very important for us because we want to offer it as a service to our customers. And we're going to scale up further, of course. And that actually made us go and create an RFP and go into the market, go to the industry and look for a new vendor that can support not only 400G, but also the next generation of protocols that are coming, for example, VPN and all the new goodies that will come in the technology market. And we created the RFP and we released it to the vendors, and Juniper was one of the companies that responded immediately with Evgeny and Marcel, and they came to us with a nice proposal of, okay, this is what we can do for you guys.
Okay, cool, clear.
That was part of the proposal.
So, Evgeny, perhaps I can ask you, why was the potential prospect of onboarding AMS-IX so important to Juniper?
Right, so we have a marketing storyline in Juniper that 46 out of world top 50 service providers are using Juniper gears in their networks to a certain extent. And of course, all those service providers exchanging the traffic on the traffic exchange points, and AMS-IX is one of the biggest of them in the world. So for us, it was a strategic win to make the story complete, right? So when AMS-IX is also covered by Juniper hardware, it's also visible for industry, and it's another confirmation that Juniper gears might be suitable for different type of deployments. So the technical requirements which they came up with, it's a bit different from regular service providers because they have their own requirements which are not necessarily much, and for us it was like the big technical challenge to match all those technical requirements and be able to qualify our platform.
So nice bridging question. not in detail, but what were some of the high-level requirements that you had when you were looking for a new platform?
Absolutely. So one of the key requirements, for example, was scalability, right? As Tim mentioned before in his presentation, AMS-IX is growing, AMS-IX is expanding, so we definitely need to accommodate more and more customer connections, and so scalability is very important for us. Stability is one also very key requirement. We want a stable platform. We want something that's reliable, so we can offer the best quality services to our customers and also build new high quality services on top of the new equipment. And another key requirement is flexibility, because all those new services that we want to deploy, they need to have a flexible hardware, they need to have a flexible operating system. Junos is one of them, so we definitely wanted to have a flexible operating system to work with. And I would also add the fourth key requirement, which was interoperability. That was very important for us, because we cannot switch equipment from day 1 to day 2 immediately. It will take, as Tim said, 4.5 years. So there's going to be a big period of time that the new vendor needs to interoperate with all generation of MLX switches, plus also the SLXs. So like 3 generations of equipment talking MPLS, VPLS at the same time. So interoperability was super important for us.
Okay, clear. And these requirements, I guess you've seen them from other customers, but were there some unique requirements that AMS-IX had, and how did you go in meeting the requirements that Stavros has just talked about?
Right, so I think that's the very important point, interoperability, right? So the most important requirement which we've seen from AMS-IX side was those devices need to coexist in the network. The network already has its own protocol stack and this subset of services they are providing to the customers, and those Brocade devices will not go out in the next year or so. So we're going to coexist for a long time. So the requirement they had from their side, the existing devices should keep their configuration with 0 changes. That was very important for them because they don't want to ruin the existing network. It's very important to run it without any interruptions. So in order to prove that, we've been able to build the prototype of AMS-IX platform in Juniper lab in the office here in Schiphol. And then we run one by one all the tests to make sure without 0 changes in configuration on Brocade side, we can deliver the same type of services to the customers. And those tests, which we did, that was always in the same way, like the customers connected to the both vendors at the same time, and we was running the services between them. So we spent a lot of time on that. And surprisingly, it went really well, because it appears that both vendors who was taking part in that testing, they basically very straight and unified in implementation of RFC. So well, basically, both vendors did a great job when they was implementing the standards. That's why we had like almost no problems in order to make those both platforms work together.
Nice, nice. Okay, cool. So Stavros, perhaps you can elaborate, and there's others out there that are looking to go through a similar exercise that you did. Can you tell us a bit more about, where you started in the whole process, the project itself, the phases you laid out, and maybe a little bit more detail about how one goes about such an adventure? Sure.
So when we decided to go to the market and look for a new vendor, a new switching fabric, first thing we did was to put down in a paper all the requirements that we have and all the lessons that we learned through all these years that we operate NL switching platform. So it was a big list of requirements, starting from layer 1, like what we want to support in terms of transceivers, and then going layer 2, all the functionalities we want to have with MAC learning and our protocols, and layer 3, of course, MPLS, VPLS. All the requirements putting down on a paper was a huge list, and based on that, we created the RFP, which we sent it over. And then when we decided, when Juniper came to us, they came with a presentation. We had some, first of all, some Zoom talks, Teams talks, and then they presented to us what they recommend. And after that, when we saw, okay, that's a good proposal, we decided to go for a POC. We conducted the POC in 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. In the first phase, we actually went to the Juniper headquarters, with our equipment in a van, actually, with SLXs, MLXs, Glimmer glass machines, everything, servers, everything in a big van. And we went to Juniper POC. We had 2 racks available for us with the Juniper equipment and also free space. We created a small IXP in just 2 days with the cabling, so from scratch, and then we managed to make the machines interoperate. And after that, we did test for a month, actually. Starting from everything, from transceivers, pluggables, fiber connections, and then going all the way to MPLS, VPLS stack, and also testing egress rate limiting and all the other functionalities we're going to offer now, but also in the future. That was the first phase. And then we noticed that Juniper's proposal also including a new line card, the 9600, which says 24 times 400G, which was exactly what we wanted to have. So after that, because this line card was not available at that time, we decided to go for a second POC just to test this line card, because all our future deployments and migrations are actually, based on this line card. So it was very important for us to make sure that this line card is fully functional, interoperates with the protocols we're going to use, and is future-proof. Then we did the second phase. And after that we saw, okay, the whole solution that Evgeny was proposing to us was a good solution. Of course, the financials and stuff, but that's none of the discussion. And then we said, okay, that's a good thing. We can work with Juniper.
Okay. And so how long is from the point where you said, okay, we're going to start putting pen to paper, to the point where you said, okay,
2 years more or less.
Okay.
Yeah, and 2 years, and as you can see from the pictures, we did the POCs during the pandemic, so we had also to do some challenges with security clearance and get exceptions from US, so it was not easy, And they created some delays, of course, but roughly 2 years.
Okay, cool.
So maybe I can add something from 400 gig perspective, because I think that's a very interesting part of the discussion. So when we started proof of concept back in 21, right?
21, yes.
Yeah. So at this point of time, we never had 400 gig on this platform. It was on the roadmap, but 400 gig was a big deal in the project. So it was one of the main requirements from AMS-IX side. So of course, we've been able to get a commitment letter from Juniper side, which says that the line card will be available for the order like in a certain time frame. But internally, we realized that's not good enough. So we've been able to get AMS-IX in a special list of the customers who can get their hands on the beta samples of the line cards. So by the end of the day, they appear to be the first customer outside of the United States to get this line card into their topology, to test it with their configuration and according to their technique. So the line card which we're speaking here is LC9600, which by the end of the day got the very nice name of the Formula One team Alfa Romeo. And this line card, well, we started testing on a beta software as well, because it was not publicly available yet. And from the first day of the testing, we realized, well, this proof of concept is going to go very smooth, because the configuration was already there. We just applied that and realized, well, from the day zero, it already delivers what it should.
Yeah.
Also, with our friends with Flex Optics, we've got very interesting transceivers, the optical transceivers, which I'm probably going to use in the future. And we've been able to test all of those transceivers for future use. So that was perfect match. Okay,
so going into it, and you've got experience with other customers. Can you explain some of the big difference between, say, a hyperscaler and a client like AMS-IX? Was this a big transition for you to be dealing with that?
Right. It's actually a very good question, because from one perspective, when AMS-IX came up with the requirements, and if you look at the high-level diagram of what they want, you can basically see the huge data center network, because they have 2 dedicated core nodes, which you can call spine in data center terminology. They have a lot of edge nodes, which you can call leaf. Everyone is connected to the spine, and basically they have equal path for the traffic all the time. So basically it's 2-tier closed fabric from one perspective. However, this is very different from hyperscalers, because you can rarely see MPLS in the data center. That's why we cannot really offer our data center platforms for that. So we need to look at the service provider scale platform, where we support MPLS to a certain extent, where we have the opportunity to move to EVPN in the future and keep MPLS underlay in that. So that's from this perspective. However, the second thing, which is very different from data centers, is the capacity and bandwidth what they expected. So in data center, when we are making the concept of the network, we're always working with oversubscription coefficient. It's always the case because we do not expect that leaf switch is going to push the traffic from all the ports at the same time at 100% rate. This is not the case at all. In AMS-IX, they offer into their customers line rate ports. So this is very important to deliver the same line rate on the line cards, on the fabric, and back to the backbone. That was perfect click with Juniper because, well, Juniper, when it comes down to our platforms for service providers, we always speak about line rate speed. It doesn't matter what kind of service we're applying to the traffic on the port, it always delivers line rate. So there's no oversubscription on the platform at all. That was really heavily tested. So we did the test on all type of line cards with the different types of traffic you've seen there in the pictures. There was snake tests where we connected all the ports in the snake and run the traffic through the line card, which by the end of the day consumes a lot of energy. Remember that power outage which we did in the lab when we started like moving all the traffic at the same time. But yeah, we've been able to get through all those tests.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the second. However, there's one common thing between AMS-IX and data centers, hyperscalers, if you wish. That's automation. Because in both cases, in hyperscalers environment and AMS-IX environment, it's simply not possible to operate the network without layer of automation in the middle. And that was another click with Juniper, because we are, as a Juniper, we believe in that, in automation. We deliver, well, it's in our DNA to deliver, to expose API from Junos, from the platform, to the users and provide the detailed explanation how to use this API. We can provide our in-house management system for sure, but we'll also provide the libraries for the modern open source languages. So, well, basically you can do whatever you want. You can build your own management system from scratch and you get the full support from us.
Brilliant. Okay. So, you know, you talk about some of the uniqueness, and I guess, you know, AMS-IX IXPs are relatively unique. And there's probably only a handful of other IXPs around the world that might compare to the size of AMS-IX with traffic, complexity, the topology, and so on. So did you approach, you know, through forums like EuroIX and just contacts, other IXPs in Europe around the globe to see what they're using, get some feedback, ask for red flags, things to look out for, that sort of thing?
Yes, we did. I mean, customer experience from the eyes of another IXP or friendly IXP, we took the feedback into consideration. It was not the main reason to decide, of course, but definitely we asked around, okay, guys, how are you doing with this vendor? Are you satisfied? Is the support good? You know, is the product good for you? And how do you consider the configuration and automation of this product? And yes, we did it, of course, with a couple of other IXPs, similarly same size with us. And we took the feedback into consideration, yes, because you need to keep your eyes open, right? You need to see what's happening outside of your box, in the industry, in the market. You need to talk to the people, you need to talk to the network engineers who do the same job with you and get some ideas as well to maybe enrich your proof of concept or maybe take some tips that you didn't think at the beginning, because actually for us, it's a new journey. As a new vendor, we don't have much experience with Juniper. We run Brocade and Extreme boxes for many, many years. So it's like going a little bit in the wild for us. So any feedback that we can consider from our fellow colleagues is very useful, and we can take into consideration, yes.
Brilliant. Oh, good to hear that they were forthcoming and giving you that information.
AMS-IX is always about collaboration and community, so fellow network engineers is part of our community.
Good. Okay, so a question for you both. Perhaps to start with you, Stavros. Evgeny. What about with this project? Did you have any challenges? Did you learn any new lessons? Were there some surprises that came about?
Right. Well, the whole proof of concept of both of them, right? That was one big challenge because AMS-IX created, I think, the most complicated test plan I ever seen in my experience.
Oh, yeah.
So we did. The test plan itself was like 150 pages. And when they fill it up with the data, it was like 600, what is it?
Yes.
Yeah, and we did it twice.
And we did it twice.
So, yeah, the whole proof of concept was really challenging. And then, of course, it was very entertaining times because it was in the middle of COVID crisis. So everything everything was closed, and we got exception to be in the office in our team, like with a mask, with a distance, but still we can go to the office, and we was only one person in the building, basically. During the proof of concept, we also had some challenges because like there was a beta sample of the line card, like no one knows how exactly it should work, how you should test it. Of course, we sent the configuration and topology up front to our engineering to make sure they're ready for that testing, and they did. But yeah, for us, it was also like something uncharted territory, let's say it like that. That was the challenges. Requirements which AMS-IX provided originally was also challenging because that's not usually for a company like Juniper, like deliver the platform for internet exchange. And like we have to be sure for 100% it will deliver because, well, they expect to scale it. They expect to keep that in the network for a long time. So yeah, that was challenging part. But as I mentioned, it went surprisingly well when it comes down to interop. So my deepest fears was not confirmed. So just worked how it should. The services which we implemented also works how they should. There was some actually lessons learned. There was really interesting things because the guys from AMS-IX who was involved in the testing, Stavros and Eric, they're very knowledgeable. They have huge experience, but they don't have experience in Juniper. That's why they seen on all that process with a bit different angle, which was very useful. So sometimes when we try it and test some new features, they came up with the idea like, look, guys, it works, but, well, it's not really logical how you do this. It would be great if you can do it in a different way. So we reported that back to engineering, and surprisingly, they accepted the changes. And nowadays, if any customer around the globe use the Junos of a certain version, like higher than, they use some improvements, which was there because of AMS-IX. So thank you guys for that.
You attribute those to AMS-IX?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so and yourself, you have anything to add, Stavros, about lessons learned or
yes. One of the first lessons learned is that we definitely need to review our proof of concept template and all the test cases we have to make it a bit more general or vendor, not vendor oriented, but vendor agnostic, I would say. Yeah. So, for example, there was one functionality which was developed by Dstream based on AMS-IX requirements called loop detection, which was actually to detect loops. And we have it in the test plan. We want always to test this functionality. And we went to the proof of concept with this requirement. Okay, Evgeny, can you please configure loop detection? Yeah, but we don't have that. But Evgeny came with the idea of Mac move. Oh, okay, Mac move. Oh, okay, maybe you can do the job. So these are things that you definitely need to refine before you go to your to do your proof of concept, and that's one of the things. So lessons learned. Definitely check a little bit your test plan and before you go to your proof of concept. But that's fine. That's okay.
Brilliant. Okay. So having said all this, you've gone through your proof of concept. You've talked about difficulties. With all those things considered, why did you finally end up choosing Juniper?
They tick the boxes, to be honest. So all the requirements that we posed, they tick the boxes. Then we had the possibility to test the machines in 2 phases, right? So we had 2 long proof of concepts, spent actually 2 months in your headquarters. And we many times deviated from the test plan to do some ad hoc testing that, this time of the day we had a great idea, so let's test it. So we had some ad hoc tests. And we saw that the machines behave very nicely. They are super flexible. Whatever we wanted to do, all the crazy things that we had to put in the Junos, the machine was accepting it. It could do definitely nice things. And of course, we did run the numbers with team about how we're gonna, what are the plans of scaling, and we saw that the machines can accommodate our needs. And then there were some financial discussions in the background. Of course, we need to make sure that it is within the budget, and definitely it was within the budget. So at the end of the day, the technical requirements were met, and also the financial requirements were met. So we have a winner.
So. Okay, so, and maybe on top of that, something that else I can imagine will play into it. I mean, you talked about the process taking 2 years. I can see there's good energy between you now. You've probably really got to know each other well. But so in asking that, how important is openness and transparency? Well, we don't have that feature, but we could create it. How important did this play a role in you then deciding?
Yeah, actually that's a great question, because AMS-IX, as you know, was with one vendor for almost 20 years. And throughout this big journey with this previous vendor, we had a very good or excellent collaboration, I would say, with this vendor. We had the chance to go to the headquarters many times. We had the chance to test machines first, develop new features, get all the requirements we wanted, the enhancements we wanted. We could manage to get them. And the vendor was open to us at the same time. Okay, guys, we can deliver this or we cannot deliver this. So there was a great communication and a great relationship throughout the years. And definitely that was a key element for us that we wanted to keep, because now we don't want to change vendor again in 2 years, right? We're going to keep it for some time. So we definitely want to keep the same level of high collaboration. Yeah. And we noticed that, okay, Evgeny was responding very quickly to us when it comes to things. And he was open to us that, okay, we can do this crazy thing, or we can do all the things. And even when he contacted guys in headquarters in Juniper about some things that we didn't like, we had immediate responses. We even managed to get beta software next day to test this crazy thing that we wanted to have. Yeah. And that was amazing. So that really impressed us.
Okay. And you, Evgeny, just quickly, like from your side as well, I mean, how important or how good or bad was it? How clear the communication was from AMS-IX about their needs and requirements, and again, on that relationship. Do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I also think it's very important, like, to be open and transparent with your customers, especially when it comes down to AMS-IX, because we've already seen that at the beginning of this day when they shared the information what's happening with the previous platform across the year. Like, if you will be not transparent, your name will be there on the slides every time, not in really good light. So that's for sure. That's another benefit to be transparent. But we've been lucky inside Juniper because, well, we've been hunting for AMS-IX for many years, even before I started to be responsible for this region. So at the moment when we've got the real project from AMS-IX, we immediately got a laser focus from the company. So we've been backed by our engineering management teams, and whatever we wanted to deliver to AMS-IX, we've got approval internally. So the examples which Stavros just gave us, it's when we want something overnight and it just happened with the daily build of software. That was a very nice piece of collaboration, but that's not going to be happen if we would not be transparent both to the customer and the side, the company.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and by the end of the day, we're sitting here on the stage, don't want to hurt anyone. At least visually. Yeah.
So to see if all this comes true, can you tell us a little bit more about the planned rollout, when you envisage this occurring, and how a customer is going to notice that the rollouts occur?
Yeah, absolutely. So we expect the machine somewhere on Q4, if I remember correctly, and it has been already mentioned. At the same time, we already started preparations. Kostas is working with the training of the NOC team, is working with the preparations of the data centers and engineering team. So we have already started preparations. Also, we're going to start soon the extension of the AMS-IX provisioning stack. So we definitely want to have the customers being configured automatically, because automation is in the DNA of AMS-IX. So we believe that by the end of the year, when we're going to receive the first machines, we're going to be ready for the first migrations. And by that time, our team said that we're gonna have exact numbers which collocation is gonna be first, and then we can start rolling out the Juniper. Customers will notice it via TechL. They're gonna get announcements, of course, that we're gonna start with the migrations of the new equipment. Of course, all the machines, all the PE routers that we have already in production are behind the Photonic cross connect, so should be very smooth migration, because we know that we can shift, we can swap traffic between the two PE routers in the same collocation, so customers will just notice a normal the 20 millisecond interruption on their connection. So.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, perhaps we've got just a couple of minutes left. I don't know if there's anything you've heard here. There's any specific questions for these guys while they're up here? No, is there a hand in the back? I can't see. I don't think so. Okay, so perhaps just a quick closing statement. Evgeny, anything you want to say before we round up?
Right. I just want maybe to stress again that this win is very important for Juniper. So we're not just, it's basically strategical win. So we're not just selling our boxes, gears to the network. We're expecting for a long-term relationship here. So at the moment when the documents are signed for the products, we are working on a service offering. So, well, for starting with Juniper Professional Services, who are getting ready to finalize the master configuration according to best practice and Juniper recommendations. Then it's educational service who are working to create the tailored educational course for AMS-IX engineers and field engineers. And then by the end of the day, there's advanced service offering on the table, and there's our technical engineers who are gonna surround them with a proactive approach in the support and also the swiftly reaction on the tickets. So everything that on the table, we as a sales team expecting, of course, AMS-IX to start delivering the service based on new platform, but also came up with a new challenge to Juniper, where they need to extend their capacity, the bandwidth in the field, and we'll be ready to offer our next-gen line cards, which would be suitable for the same platform.
Brilliant. Stavros, any last words you want to?
Yes, actually it was quite educational journey also for me. I've done some proof of concepts with our previous vendor, but they were mostly smaller ones to test some new features or test some new releases of SLX OS. So as a full-scale, blown-up proof of concept, 2 times actually, it was also a big journey for me, and I learned a lot throughout this process. I want to thank Evgeny for his support and his flexibility, because we did all the preparations during the pandemic. But definitely, I'm going to give a big shout out to my colleague Eric, who was my brothers in arms all these months throughout the trip, the journey. So please give it applause for Eric. It was a key element. I couldn't have done it without Eric. So we were a great team, and together with Evgeny, the 3 of us, we managed to do it flawlessly.
Yeah, I'm sure there were quite a few involved. So, I mean, look, talking to you previously and listening to this, I think you've really thought about what you wanted to do. You spent a long time through a deep process, and you know, you had to weigh up everything, and you've come out with a decision that you believe is best. And I think you've been very transparent with the membership and community about it. So, yeah, well done, and look forward to seeing the new infrastructure in place. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, please thank the gentleman. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Nice one.